not being taught drop shipping in Dubai 102, you know?
Why would an employer trust your guys' school if it doesn't have that much of a track record?
Most startups in the US do fail. So I think we're just failing now rather than later. At Tetr, we have that safety net of our school that when we fail, we don't fail as hard as it would be in the real world.
Do traditional colleges, their exams, lectures and grades really prepare students for the real world? This episode is in partnership with Tetr College of Business, a unique college where each semester students travel to a new country and they actually build real businesses as they travel. They get graded on actual revenues, profits, and not just exams. And they also get an accredited bachelor's or master's degree. Today, we're bringing together students from new age colleges and traditional universities. Let's see if they are able to agree on what is a better education and find middle ground.
The first prompt is, traditional colleges care more about grades than true learning. Can the agreeer step forward?
Well, I'm Mia and I go to UCLA. I think, I want to hear from you guys too, but I think personally, I've really felt this a lot at my university, just like when I feel like I can get a topic and it doesn't reflect in your grades, your teacher isn't going to say, well, do you feel like you got it? And then pass you, you know, it's going to be on the number. So I unfortunately do agree with this point.
So my name is Brennan and I go to the Tetr College of Business. I think for me, I can actually offer a perspective from both the traditional and non-traditional sides. I actually graduated from the University of Calgary in mechanical engineering. And I actually did that for 4 years and a year of internship before deciding that mechanical engineering wasn't going to be the path that I wanted to do. And it took me 3 months of solo travel and a lot of self-reflection before I realized that I wanted to experience learning by actually trying things out. And I think for me, that's what really led me to come to Tetr, because when I'm in a non-traditional school, I find that sometimes the grades that I get don't actually reflect how much I know.
I think in my perspective, I also did a year of college before. I'm also currently a student at Tetr College of Business, but I did 1 year of marketing at Nova Southeastern. And I think all throughout school, even in high school, I think it's a system that's built for grades and that rewards good grades. I think at Tetr we have the opportunity a lot of times to test our knowledge, not only in exams, but also through experience. So in Tetr we all build our own businesses in each country, and we'll sit in the class, we'll learn the theory, and then that exact same day we'll have the opportunity to apply it, whether it's with finances, marketing, branding, positioning, all of those things. And I think I'm very surprised how I can sit in the classroom, I can think I understand something, I could even write a good test, I could get an A, but then when I'm actually applying it that same day or that same week or even month, I know way less than I expected. So I think that system in school is just mostly for the grades and not really on true understanding.
I agree with her. I'm Jeet, I'm a sophomore and a student at Tetr College of Business. And I don't have anything against grades, I think they're great. But at the same time, real application of it is equally very important, or maybe a little more important when we do end up entering the real world.
Hi, my name is Sophia. I'm from Mexico. I'm also from Tetr, but unlike them, straight out of high school, I went to Tetr. So I don't have that experience exactly of how it is at traditional and non-traditional. I only have the non-traditional, but based on what my dad was telling me, because he went to the college here in the States, he was telling me that basically I know that many of these colleges, you're in a room with 400 students, right? So they do care about the grades because grades, as Jeet was saying, is an indicator of how well you're understanding the concept. But in my experience, when I was applying to different colleges, here in the US and in other parts of the world, I was I can take an example of the application process, right? So they're just asking for my grades. And so when I was applying to Tetr, what I kind of liked about it is that it wasn't just about my grades. They also had this trial test that I had to go through to be able to test how well I can think and under pressure and how I perform under pressure, basically.
Can the disagreeer step forward now?
Hello, guys.
Hey.
My name is Mika. I go to a community college here in California. And the reason I didn't step forward originally is I partially agree with you guys, but I also do disagree. I think it's very much situational for the colleges that we attend here because some of them are private schools and they're a lot more smaller and intentional, and other ones, you know, you can go to, no offense, like UCLA, and you're gonna have a class of like a bunch of kids in the labs. But the point I wanted to bring up is I think that the US itself and what it does amazing with our economics is that we invest so much into labs and into experiments and stuff like that. So I think that also allows us to gain a lot of experience, hands-on, and opportunity, which is not just the grade. Yeah. So for you guys that went to college for the first year, what really was the final decision for you guys dropping out and going to Tetr?
I loved my current college. I was in South Florida, so pretty good location. But I think I was just really eager to start. And when you're in high school, you hear like, just wait to college, wait to college. Once you're in college, then you'll start like being hands-on. And then your freshman year of college, of course, is a very basic year. I was still taking classes like basic math, basic English, and I wasn't taking many marketing classes or business classes, and so I was still needing to wait, and they were like, in your last year of college is when you'll get to like do a business. And with Tetr, it was like the very first semester you get to build your own business, and the classes you take, they're all titled How To, and they're very, very much hands-on, and they walk you through, and then you get to apply it directly. And so I think that in itself was like a huge deciding factor in why I left my other college, was because I really wanted to start building right then and there.
I think that's something that's kind of important about like more traditional education, even though I stepped forward at first, and I still do agree. The one thing that I do think traditional college, especially when studying business, is really, not that non-traditional doesn't, but is like building excellence and almost as close to perfection as you can before you go into the real world. Like, I don't want to mess up a balance sheet with $1 billion in the real world. I want to do that on a simulation in a lab where my grades matter and my professor can give me comments, rather than learn it that morning and turn around and say, I forgot what my teacher told me this morning. So that's kind of where I see kind of an in-between of really kind of perfecting your craft in the classroom and your grades really focusing, versus just being able to turn around right away and be like, I learned it, I got it, let's go.
90% of startups in the US generally fail. So I think that money is not something that a lot of people, at least the general population, can really play with. So I think it is important to get more education before jumping into the water. And I think that's why the American school system is built a lot stronger in that sense, and you know, it's a lot more recognizable because it really prepares you for what you need to do to step forward into these businesses.
Yeah, I'm Skylar. I also go to UCLA, but I am a graduate student, so I have some work experience under my belt before going into grad school. And I think for me, I've been able to find a lot of value in, you know, you mentioned like not liking necessarily some of the theory that you learned maybe in high school, and it was all really theoretical. I think being able to utilize that theory and apply that in practice once you end up, you know, in a working position, I think being able to study it and analyze it and understand and like learn from other people's successes and failures, like some failures that you're never going to be able to experience because maybe you don't work in that industry, but you're able to really learn from that. And that's like the benefit of kind of like a case method, I guess, which is what the Anderson School follows. But
so if you guys don't believe that grades are necessarily as important, what would you go to rate where you guys are at with placement?
So we do have tons of different things that I think it's graded on or measured by. One thing is we do get grades from our classes, but also a lot of our grades come from our businesses. And so one of the things we get graded on is how much money we make, how much revenue we make, and how much profit out of that we get to keep ourselves. One of my favorites is at the end of each semester, we get to pitch our company to real investors. And so last semester we built a company together called Serve. It's a pickleball brand. And then we got to go and we had to prepare like an actual investor's pitch. It was like a mock Shark Tank, and we had to go present our, you know, business and talk about a bunch of numbers and our journey as a company, which I think was like super cool getting that experience so young. And that was like one of the benchmarks, is that we worked so much that entire semester to build that business, and then was able to sell it enough to also get investment and use that to continue to grow our business. So I would say that's a huge benchmark as well.
I wanted to like mention, because I do get the example of the spreadsheet, because like it is a little nerve-wracking, just like, you know, saying like, oh, I like, this is like the real world, I'm playing with money, but you're eventually gonna end up there. And so I'd rather kind of like learn things in practice and then put them like in practice again right away.
Don't you think that makes it, though, that you can only really replicate the same business model like over and over and over again? Like the things that we learn, it's like foundational education, you know? Like theory, yes, is annoying. Macroeconomics, micro, all of that, like what does Keynes have to do with anything? But when you look back on like a foundation of a business or any of these things beyond being an entrepreneur, like your grades are tying to what your foundational knowledge is and how you can build off of that, not just go straight into it. Like if I go from here and build a lemonade stand, I'm not going to know how to build a data center next, you know? But if I'm in college, understanding how the macroeconomic cycles work and this is what's supplied and this is what's demanded, you know? That kind of balance seems important. And so do you guys feel like without grades and without kind of that traditional structure, you can really tap into a foundational base of like education and not just what you did last week or last month?
I think that was really well said.
Yeah,
as well.
so I think at the core, we are also a business school. And we are being taught all the foundations and normal all courses, all macroeconomics, microeconomics, all financial classes, all marketing, branding classes. So we have all of that. But on top of that, we also get the chance to, let's say, apply all of whatever we are learning in real settings. Also, as you said earlier, that there needs to be some benchmarking at the same time. How is someone judging you? So that's why we have a very great feedback loop for it. So we have mentors, we have people full-time just looking at us, helping us throughout the whole time. And these are not just, I wouldn't say just like random mentors. These are people who have previously built companies, or they're VCs already, they're angel investors, they're founders who have previously raised millions of dollars, and they're coming in and then mentoring us specific to, let's say, the business that we are building. And also adding on to that, you mentioned about different business models. So every term, we build a different business model. So let's say maybe in our first term, we were in Dubai, we built drop shipping business. Then we moved to India, wherein we built a D2C brand, which is a direct-to-consumer brand. Then we moved on to Singapore, wherein we built a Kickstarter brand. And then now, currently we flew in from Ghana, wherein we're building a non-profit initiative. So this also allows us flexibility, I would say, to experiment more, at the same time understand our likings and things.
I actually want to add on to that because I think, well, for one thing, like someone who's more finance oriented, I guess I should probably do an introduction. My name is Ian and I also go to UCLA. I'm a business econ major, but I'm also part of the Honors College and, or I guess rather the Honors Program. And thank you. Thank you. And in the Honors Program, part of our curriculum is that we need to do 2 experiential engagements, which means that we need to do like 2 things that take our work in the curriculum that we're learning in school and applying it to something external. When I first came to UCLA in my first quarter, I was just having a little bit of trouble adjusting, and my grades took like a slight dip, and it did take a little bit out of me mentally because it was like, wow, like I'm used to having this track record of success, and now that's been like derailed, so now I need to like try and build back up. But I feel like going through that is also just a necessary life lesson of like a lot of great business leaders, like they messed up before they made it big. They started humbly and they started in those positions where it's like, man, like I wanted to do this, but it didn't work out. And they live in that for a while until they get to that one great spark that's like, I made it, I can't believe it. And I feel like going through school and having those like bad grades, but then you have that one test that you really study for and then you succeed, it's like it gives you a second win because it's like, whoa, maybe I actually can do this.
Wait, why are you running a business while you're still in college?
Because I go to Tetr College of Business.
How does that work?
So we learn business by building real businesses, and every semester is in a different country.
That's so cool. Tell me more.
7 semesters, 7 countries, and 7 businesses across Dubai, India, Southeast Asia, Ghana, the US, Argentina, and Europe. Plus, our grades are based on revenue and profit we make. Tetr is a global business school where students learn by doing. Each semester, we build and scale real companies in a new country, guided by real founders, CEOs, and faculty from Ivy League colleges. Our grades come from the profits we make, and the best part, we also get to keep all the profits we make. If you're looking for a global applied approach to business education, Tetr offers a fundamentally different model of college and the place for you. Click on the link in the description to apply for admission and start building real businesses around the world.
Now let's get back to the video.
The next prompt is, new age education only works if you have money or connections?
I mean, personally, I'm trying to start a business and I'm doing community college with it, and
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine investing my own money into something right now greater than like a few like $1,000 to
Yeah.
throw here and there. But like if
Yeah.
you're doing a grand business and stuff like that, that takes thousands of dollars. And I don't know if that's very realistic for the average person living in America, especially coming straight out of high school.
Yeah, I joined you guys because I think part of it, I mean, definitely in the same boat as there's a lot of missing pieces that I don't understand, but I do think there is like maybe some element of privilege in being able to choose a like less secure option where you have no idea like the safety and the security behind it, where it's like I can go and do this, and if it doesn't work out, like maybe I'll fall back on something else where it almost feels like it's a higher risk because it's also, there's not like hundreds of years behind the academic system that is proving it, where I think that part of it is something that
I barely had the privilege to put all of my eggs in this traditional basket, so much money a year, but it's because I have full faith in that I can make something from this. And so like exactly you were saying.
Can the disagreeer step forward?
Real quick, like as someone who like does go to more traditional or has a more traditional college experience, I just wanted to like vouch for them real quick, because like I think that while yes, like what they're doing can be seen as like more experimental and like not as like the path might not be as defined as like, okay, like I go to this college and I know that just by being here, I'm gonna have that name attached to me and I'm gonna attain a certain level of success. But I think that like it does also take a level of privilege to be able to go to certain four-year universities. Like I know you had mentioned about people who go to Harvard that have that prestige. Like yes, there is a lot of prestige associated with certain universities, especially the one that I go to, UCLA. But there is also a high barrier of entry for some of those places. Like if you come from a background that is not privileged, you might not have the means to be able to even get into those universities. Right. Like I know a lot of people who struggled just getting an associate's degree. And also like just looking at the people that are here, like there is like a very wide background that is being represented by all four of you. And I don't feel like any one of you comes from like immense privilege. I feel like you all represent very different like backgrounds. And as well, like at the same time, you guys only represent one new age school. So there are other new age schools, new age programs that probably have lower barriers to entry. And I think like, just like you said as well, like I don't know much about, a new age college experience. So I can't like go out of my way to say like, okay, like everyone that goes there has like a higher amount of privilege or like there's a higher barrier of entry to get into it. Like I just can't make that assertion.
To give you a little bit of background as well, I come from a traditional Indian middle class family. Paying for tuition is a huge financial burden. But at the same time, because of scholarship opportunities, merit and need, I'm able to afford this college. And I think even beyond that, what you even mentioned that coming from an Harvard is always, let's say, easier or more beneficial, and Tetr is not that well known of a name. But I think the market is changing very rapidly. Now, even if you might come from one of the top universities out there, there's a chance that someone from a new age university might take that role. Also because of the experiences that they might come with. For sure, these universities took years to build their reputation and thousands of alumni to build that alumni network. We are fairly new, but yeah, I think the whole scenario is changing very fast.
How do you guys have, like, seriously, the money to, like, make these businesses? And the other thing, like, just partially is, like, I guess a little bit about, like, morality of it, like drop shipping, it's taking a product at a lower price, selling it for a higher price. To me, that comes from a place of privilege of, like, I'm going to take this that I know that this is at this price and it could be sold for cheaper, and I'm going to mark it up for my own gain. Like, it's literally nothing but your own gain because you put your own money into it. So that to me, like, screams, frankly, privilege. Whereas, like, that might be in our future, but that's nothing near what I'm doing right now. I don't think I'm gonna be like a drop shipping boss. But,
I mean, it's a lot about, I do partially agree with it as well. But I think the reason that it's put in the first semester is because one of the hardest skill that you'll gain is marketing. And marketing a dropshipping product is really hard in, let's say, an American or a European market. It's very saturated. So for personally, me, it was very hard to even break even in that business.
A lot of the companies, we do put our own money, but it's also like a pattern that we learn constantly is how to do business with very, very little money. And that kind of helps us get creative on like how are we gonna, let's say, get access to different resources in a very like moral, truthful, honest, legal way, of course. But it kind of makes us be creative. And so like marketing usually has, if you have a really big budget, you're able to do a lot of these content ideas. Since we don't have a lot of budget, that's where I think social media has come in a huge way. Yeah. Social media is like one of the cheapest ways of marketing, if it's done correctly. But specifically for Serve, and I think a lot of other businesses, is that you can pitch to get a loan for more money. And so our school, Tetr, we pitched our very first like month for our pickleball brand, and we asked for a certain amount of money. And of course, we do have to sign something that we would be responsible to pay it back, but it has way less interest than like any other bank, and no other, let's say, bank would give out a loan to students this young who don't have a very big track record. And we were able to get that money, multiply that money, then pay it back, and then continue to use the extra money that we already gained from our business to continue our business. So right now we haven't taken any money out.
Do you feel like you're just like being conditioned to increase shareholder value? Because that's just how it feels to me. Is it's like,
private equity.
Yeah.
I do think that at least in that last part, like that gets more into like the morality of what it means to be someone in business. And I think like that ethical standard isn't just something that is like, should be applied to them, like it should be applied to us as well. Because like objectively, even though I don't think that it takes like more inherent privilege to do like what they do, objectively at the same time, like drop shipping in Dubai is like the most Gen Z way of like get rich quick. Like
We're not being taught drop shipping in Dubai 102,
Right, but I think what that represents is the idea of like hustle culture, and like you want to make as much capital as possible with like as little effort as possible.
We are also paying for like the tools and the access that the school kind of gives us, and the fact that again we do have that safety net after all of it, that we are getting a degree. I would say more as like a catapult, because like you're being like, I don't know, pushed forward. So I feel like sometimes the things that you're taught either by the time you graduate have changed completely or are not at least updated in some sort of way. And so you do have to relearn how to like, how like maybe the company culture, or like how your company like that you're working for or interning for is handling now like different ways of marketing, or how they're approaching customers nowadays.
It would be the exact same way in which your first year starting, you didn't have AI that's able to correctly analyze the marketing trends of your business versus the year you graduate. So I think it would be quite akin to us learning one thing and it changing by the time we get to the market, and you guys learning one thing and that technology shifting by the time you're gonna make money.
But we're
from
constantly applying it like in real life. Like in that semester, yeah, we learned it and maybe it changed during that semester, but at the same time we're also applying it in the market in real time and like in different countries, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's also the difference is like, I keep talking about, but like Keynesian economics, it doesn't change from year to year, and that's why the foundations are so powerful. And that's what I also think is dangerous about switching your methods every year, of like, what are you rooted in? What do you know? You're a jack of all trades, master of none. Kind of, that's what my mind goes to.
I think that's a really interesting point. I would say, like going back to the drop shipping, I think it's a business model that I don't think anybody really enjoyed doing. But
true.
I think that, there's a lot of complaints, but I think that in the root of itself, it was the most basic model of business that gave us a really good foundation. It taught us how to do all like the setups. We have to legally set up the business. We have to keep track of the finances at a very basic level, while also doing like the marketing, meta ads, all these different things. And that is something that we repeat over and over and over again, because every single business model we do replicates that. And so that base and foundation itself gets really, really strengthened in terms of by, the third year we're doing it, we've done it so many times, so we understand it, way better, that I feel like we've really grown those skills in itself.
And there also is benefit in learning from those historical things and being able to, like in a case analysis, being able to understand something like that was a huge failure or a huge success that happened years ago. And maybe it's not a direct application to, you know, something that's updated, but there's learnings from that you can take and carry with you.
No, I totally
And we
agree.
agree
History
with that.
repeats.
Yeah, and that's why we do have the theory as well. We do have the credits as well. We do have the grades as well.
But in theory, half, right? Like, if we have it all the time and you guys have to run your business,
Yeah,
it
I
would
would
be
say,
like
like,
half of that.
With that example specifically, we do, let's say, learn about failures in history, but we also get to experience our own failures a lot. Like our business, even though we maybe talk about it in a very positive way, it went through a lot of failures. There was lots of nights where it was really, really hard. Kind of similar to what you guys were saying earlier, where you're doing really bad in a class and you work really hard, you really good at an exam and you feel amazing. I'd say we feel that exact same point with our business. Sometimes it's going really bad. And I think that in itself is like some of the strongest learning opportunities is failing you yourself at this young age and really understanding how to come out of that and, you know, critically thinking ideas of how to problem solve those problems for
So it's
yourself.
kind of preparing you for the real world in the most realistic scenario possible.
Yeah.
You know how, yes, you can learn from like other people's mistakes, and preferably that's how I would like to learn. But it isn't until I make my own mistakes that like it's stuck in my brain like, okay, well, I wouldn't go do this again in the future because it doesn't work out.
But at what cost? At what cost can you make those mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, you guys said earlier too that most startups in the US do fail and that most people who are successful at some point did fail. So I think, like we said before, we're just failing now rather than later, because I think failure is bound to happen and there is a huge risk to it. So I think at Tetr we have that safety net of our school that when we fail, we don't fail as hard as it would be in the real world, in the real job.
The next prompt is, employers care more about real-world experience than where you studied. Can the Riya step forward?
Just from what I've gleaned as an individual, if you don't have some sort of work experience coming out of college, if it's an internship, if it's like, you know, having an entrepreneurial pursuit, like if you don't have some level of experience in that regard, like you're cooked. Like that's just what it is. Like objective.
I agree. I mean, I think that, like, you know, once you start to gain more experience out of school, your education moves from the top of your resume to the bottom of your resume, and it's something that you kind of glance at when you're hiring someone, and it's not as important as that experience that you do build. I do think there's opportunities that, you know, early in your career that you can maybe gain from some of the like network that you've developed with your specific like academic institution, but ultimately I think what they look at and look for is proven experience.
I have a question for you. You said that you've been working and kind of doing internships since you were, I think, around 13, and then also done a lot of schooling. So how would you compare your different learnings with both experiential and then also in traditional schooling?
Yeah, I think something that is big for me is being able to like have that hands-on experience and being able to like utilize these skills that I'm learning in the classroom because, you know, I keep saying that like in a case format, you're able to learn from other people's failures and other people's experiences. And I really feel like that's far more accelerated in an academic setting where you can take so many more of those instances and apply them directly to your life and to your experiences. I think there's so much value in having, you know, internships and as much experience as you can get, one, while you're trying to figure out what it is that you actually want to pursue and what you want to do, and then also, you know, when you're pushing forward with your actual path that you've chosen for your career trajectory.
Yeah, and I think like just having a degree, like just having that piece of paper, I don't think that's enough anymore. I think it used to be enough to get you exactly where you wanted to go, but I personally do think that it does give a very large leg up, just like depending on where you go and just having that name associated with you. Is that fair? I'm not gonna say, but objectively, like having that piece of paper, I do think that does bolster your opportunities in that regard.
They might take a second look at your resume if they see, oh wow, they went to Harvard, or wow, they went to the school I went to. I'm more inclined to speak to them, but I think it kind of stops there.
I think growing up, my dad, one thing he always said was that when he went to college, he didn't know a lot about college, and he thinks it was kind of like a wasted opportunity for him. He doesn't think he used it to the best of his opportunity, and he graduated with like not that well of grades, and he went into the job market having to compete against people who had really good grades and had really high GPAs. Yet they would usually always choose him. In a lot of cases, he got picked for the job because he had tons of experience. We had a family business, like my grandfather had a family business, and so my dad grew up working in his own family business and just getting that experience. And so when he was put up to, let's say, another college graduate with the same degree or even a better university with very high grades, they would still choose him because he had the hands-on experience and he had worked in the industry before, and he had that like deeper understanding within that like specific industry as well.
Can the disagreeer step forward?
I think experience is great, but I don't think it's everything. I mean, experience is also very certain to your company and what you're working in, and I think a degree gives you more foundational information in which you can apply to different jobs. So I don't think you can only get away necessarily with an experience, and I know that you guys were talking about also degrees and stuff like that, but I think everyone has to start somewhere, and going with a degree is perfectly fine just to start off, and even if you don't have experience, I don't think that you're necessarily screwed if you don't.
I've worked in banking since I was a freshman in college. I've had 3 internships, and I'm going into a full-time role at a large bank. But all is to say, you walk into the room, it's like, oh, Michigan, Harvard, MIT. You know, it's all the same thing, and so, you know, like people from UCLA, we all have great experience when we can get in the room. Are we being accepted at the same rate as someone from Harvard? Just matter of the fact is that I've observed, no. So that's why I say that. I wish experience was valued as much, but like the whole target school thing is not like a figment
Feeder
of my
schools.
imaginations. Yeah, feeder school, target school, all of that stuff. Like they want these schools because these schools have these professors probably that taught them or their grandparents or their parents, you know? Like they have the resources, they have IB Academy, they have all this stuff that prepares their students in a specific way that they like their analysts to be trained. And so I think you could have a lengthy resume and go to a community college. A big bank is gonna say, sorry.
That's a really good point for, especially for MBAs. I think there's like, I was surprised here, I forget who said it, but one of you said something about how like you have a lot of people who are going into consulting. It's surprising to me that, you know, like some of the like big firms are going to move away from what they've been doing for so long, which is, you know, it's like they have feeder schools, they look for a certain top percentage of those institutions, and those are who they take. I think that's a big thing, especially, you know, depending on your career path and your trajectory and what you choose to do, but it's a good point.
Why would an employer trust your guys' school if it doesn't have that much of a track record like Harvard? Why would someone be interested in hiring someone?
I think at that point it would come down, I think, to the person himself, and like that's where like the interview comes in. I think if they do have the exact same experience, and again, depending on the employer, I think there's definitely companies that would only hire from certain universities. But I do think, again, our generation is moving much more into a forward-thinking world where they are more open to hearing a lot more about the person and their experience themselves, and that's where the interview would come in. Going on something that like the schools, and we're saying like the schools rank and everything, one thing our founder always says is that the top 10 businesses in the last few years change very, very frequently, yet the last 10 colleges have been the same for like hundreds and hundreds of years, which has a really big contrast about how education, I think, isn't moving as fast as it like should be.
Also, I would say even if these titles from these top universities might help you, we on our side are, I think, maximizing everything possible to compete with them in that job market wherein they might be preferred for that specific employer or the recruiter, like specific person who's recruiting, he might be from the same school. The way we want ourselves to stand out is also because of the experience that we bring in. A very cool thing is we have these master classes, like 1 or 2 every week of like 1.5 hour, wherein people from Google have come in, people, CTO of Talabat came in. It's like one of the biggest startups in UAE and the MENA region.
From what we hear from a lot of these founders, a lot of these like really big companies when they come to us is, wow, I really wish I went through your program when I did college, because they do understand that a lot of their learning came from experience. And a lot of these big businesses work on a global level. And so it's not even just getting a lot of experience, it's getting experience on a global level and that like interconnectedness with all the different countries and how they kind of work together. And so I think it's not all about money. I think a lot of times it is just we have a really strong team of staff that pitch us a lot and pitch us very, very well and are able to get us these opportunities because of the value that our school provides. And a lot of the biggest entrepreneurs really are attracted to that value itself.
The last prompt is, my parents are proud of the education I'm pursuing. Can the Riya step forward?
We all agree.
Yeah.
All our parents are proud of us, guys.
My parents didn't get the opportunity to go to college at all. Like I mentioned, they came from Israel here. My dad came at the age of 14 and he worked with his dad from that young age in a mechanic shop and then went into a blue collar job. But being able to make them proud is something I'm super happy to fulfill, and I'm very happy to be able to have the ability and the privilege of going to college. So
Yeah, shout out mom, shout out dad. You know, I am definitely like, that is something that like bolsters my amount of happiness just walking around on my particular campus, knowing that my mom and dad are very proud of me for where I am. I think at the same time, kind of flipping that notion on its head, I think a lot of us in this generation had a lot of pressure growing up from our parents to do something a specific and certain way. And I think a lot of just becoming an adult and individuating is part of breaking that mold, you know? And I am like happy to make my mother proud and my father proud, but you know, but like that's just the beginning, you know? I also need to make sure that I'm leading a legacy post-college that not only can they be proud of, not only can I be proud of, but can other people like look up to it, aspire to it, you know? And I feel like, you know, especially in business, like a lot of it can be very individualistic. But at the end of the day, like we are, as business people, as people who go into entrepreneurial pursuits, as people who work in these business related fields, like we're endowed to the consumer. We're endowed to the average person. And you know, we need to make sure that we prioritize that above like, okay, well, I went here and like I had this experience and like, you know, yes, I'm super glad to be here, but this is just the start.
Yeah, I think the prop would also, I think, make me emotional for sure. I think my parents are like my biggest fans, and I think that's something that really continues to motivate me and, you know, drives me to even work harder and harder because they've given me so much and they have given me such a big privilege to go to this school. And they did always tell me growing up, like, work hard, get a scholarship, go to university. Like, that was something I heard very much growing up. And I did definitely feel a lot of pressure for my grades. And then just being able to get a really good scholarship for Tetr and be able to attend this university, I think it was actually the highest scholarship I got. And so this was, I think, really one of the only options. I mean, I did have my other college as well, but one of the only options where it was feasible to go. And I feel so, so grateful for the opportunity to go to the school and just to learn and experience everything I do. I think a huge part as well, we do learn a lot of things business-wise and also academically, but I think a huge other part is culturally. Like, we are just exposed to so much and so many cultures, and we are able to connect with so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things that our college provides. And I just feel so grateful to be able to experience that all at such a young age, and I know it's all like my parents and what they've provided for me, and so I love them so much and I'm so grateful, and they're definitely like my biggest fans. I think my dad supports Tetr more than anybody else. He is like the biggest advocate, so I feel extremely grateful for their support and their love.
I would say, I think my parents are, I want to believe my parents are really proud of me as well, because as I had mentioned, I think at one point my dad had told me, like, he's an entrepreneur, and so he's like, this is my line of work and this is what I can teach you to pass on like this generational knowledge, like Skylar was saying, learn from his mistakes so I don't make the same mistakes and I can like grow faster, advance faster, I would say. And at some point he was like, maybe college is not going to teach you what you need to do in this field. So I believe that you should go straight to the working field, right? So like to get a job or like, you know, work in our company to like get the experience that you need, because my dad has been, you know, buying and selling stuff since he was like 14 because there was not much money going around when he was a kid. And so that's what he learned and that's how he has made a living. And that's what he kind of like told me, like, oh, this is what I can teach you, right? And so that's what he wanted to push on to me, but I still wanted to go to college. I still wanted to get a degree. And so kind of when I found Tetr, it was like the perfect match of like best of both worlds, like Hannah Montana says.
I have like a slightly different experience in that my mom comes from an educational background and my dad, and both sets of both grandparents. And so they've also always kind of been like, if you will, like against the system, like very much activist, like advocating for people's rights. And so them kind of accepting that I'm gonna be like a cog in the machine of the capitalist world was definitely hard. I think what's most important, I was talking a lot about how I was really intrigued by money at first and how can I make the most amount of money and this and that. Like why my parents felt so strongly about it is like that is so far away from the point of living and being alive, and what you can contribute to this world is so much further beyond money or capital or whatever. And so I'm not going to say my parents started being proud of me when I decided like, okay, I'm going to do this career so I can give back, but kind of like seeing that fire ignite in me of realizing like, okay, like money is not the key to all, obviously. And it's like such a duh thing to say, but senior year, me in high school, I was so about it. And so now I can say thoroughly that my parents are proud of me. But they're most proud of like what they instilled in me, so their own work. But yeah.
I think this is a really good question to end on. And like, obviously I don't know all of you guys on a personal basis, but like I can see how much growth we've all like gone through rather. And I think we all should be proud of ourselves in that same regard. I think like as much as our parents are proud of us, like at times when we're invested in something and we're going through the pressure of it, it can be hard to see the other side of it. And sometimes when we just meet our expectations, which are already high as is, we don't give ourselves the proper comeuppance that we deserve. And like, again, I don't know you guys, but like I'm proud of you guys, for all of us having made it, being here. A lot of us took unconventional routes, even though we might have done, something traditional. We all have different contexts and different backgrounds, but I think that just us doing this thing called life for the first time ever and having succeeded in a lot of ways. Yes, we've all gone through our failures, but like we still have the shirts on our backs, we're still here. And I think there's a lot of comeuppance to be had for that.
I think that a theme that I saw amongst all of us is kind of like, wanting to give back, especially to those people who helped us to be where we are right now. I mean, like my mom had a similar situation to yours. She couldn't go. My grandma didn't let her go too far away. And so she's living through the experiences that I'm able to have. And the whole point of me being like here is to be able to one day give back so that she can actually live those experiences, not through me, but by herself. So I think that everybody here just wants to like be able to like give back to like those people that kind of helped us, whether it was through like new age school or like traditional school. It's just the point of like helping back to like our parents who like gave up so much for us.
I learned that everyone comes from different backgrounds, different forms, and not necessarily one of them is right and correct, and it's pretty much all different to who everyone is and what fits them, and whether or not you're going to a blue collar like trade school or you're going to regular traditional college or a new age college, everyone can learn something, and whatever works for anyone individually is fantastic.